babies born heavier and much bigger than they ever were because women are not smoking quite so much? So yes and no. So if we look right back to the 1900s, when very few women were allowed to or able to smoke, there was a very small percentage of women who would smoke there. Back in the early 1900s, the average weight for a baby was around about 6 pounds. Now, if we fast forward to the 1940s, this is where the increase in prevalence in smoking rates in women increased. At that stage, there wasn't a huge contrast or difference in terms of the weights averagely of babies. By the 1980s, around about 30% of all women smoked. And as time has progressed, because of the impact we now know about smoking and the relation to stillbirth, miscarriage, neonatal death, for example, premature birth, all of those things, the rates of smoking amongst women have decreased over time. The latest research shows that less than 10%, around about 8% of all women are smoking. And because of all the legislation, particularly here in the UK, that is existing, we know that all of that is having a huge public health impact on the reduction of smoking in general. The biggest factor in the increase in weight gain of babies in utero is because of the maternal diet. We are having more carbohydrate-based diets than we ever have done. And we can see this from countries who are experiencing famine, for example, where the babies are born smaller, more likely to be premature, more likely to be born earlier, for example, more likely to be miscarried and stillborn. And as time has progressed, we have improved our diet significantly. We now take more vegetables, more fruit, etc. than we ever have done. And we do eat a lot more carbohydrates. And that in itself increases the amount of free sugar that is around. And that increases the weight more than anything else. Absolutely, not smoking does have a huge impact. Smoking restricts baby's growth because it's got carbon monoxide in it. That stops the oxygen from going through the placenta into the baby. When babies are growth restricted, when they are not obtaining enough oxygen, what they do is they will stop growing. They will not grow quite so much because that oxygen is not getting to their body, and they're conserving their energy ready for labour and birth to try and survive it. So they drop their growth to counteract the lack of oxygen that they've got. Babies who are getting enough oxygen through that placenta can grow, can thrive. They're adapting, ready for labour and birth. They're very clever. They will prioritise their heart and their brain in being oxygenated far more than growth. But it is the diet overall that has increased the average weights of baby globally across the world compared to the smoking side of things. They both absolutely have a factor in the average weight overall, but it's our diets that have significantly improved, and that in itself is what has increased the weights of babies over time.